Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Nader Khoury. I'm a photographer and board member of APASF. On behalf of the APASF board, I want to welcome you to our monthly set event. Our set event is usually an open platform where people, the audience is actively involved. However, this month we've decided to keep the discussion amongst our panelists. But please feel free to ask any questions. And without further ado, I want to introduce Jillian Knox, who is hosting tonight. Gillian is a really wonderful food and wardrobe stylist. We're so honored to have her in the conversation tonight. Not only is she an amazing food and fashion stylist, but she's the co-founder of the Astute Agency, which is a global community platform for industry and multidisciplinary creatives with a focus on advocacy and inclusivity. This past week, Jillian did, I think it was a total of like 12 or 13 interviews with a series, on an interview series titled Astute Black Voices Week. It was on her Instagram Live. And I think I was on maybe like 8 of them. I was loving it. And if you get a chance, go back and look at all the recordings on their IG feed. So I'm gonna put things over to Jillian and let her introduce our panelists. And I'm gonna just black myself out unless there are questions that I'm gonna be monitoring. Okay, thanks, Jillian.
Thanks, Nader. Thanks everyone for joining us. I'm really excited to talk to all of these wonderful people and talented photographers. It's been a really hard few weeks, and I'm sure all of you have known that or felt that or have realized that or experienced it in some way. And in light of those events, and in society right now, we just think that taking the time to sit down with our fellow community members and talk to them and gain some understanding is really necessary right now. So we are sitting down with 5 of the Bay Area's finest photographers, Black photographers here. I'm so excited to introduce you. If you guys can give us a wave when I call your names, Ashleigh Reddy, Khalil Robinson, Deario Austin, Adrian, Octavius Walker, and Nicole Morrison. Thank you guys for being here. I can't start the conversation until I ask all of you how you're doing, because it's, everyone is experiencing this in a different way, and it's very emotional for everyone. So if whoever wants to start first, you can just let us know how you're doing. That would be great. You want to start? Ashleigh, you want to start?
Sure. It's hard to put into words, I think. Just being a Black person in America, and it's almost like people are realizing for the first time what it's like being Black, or the experiences that we go through, or that we're treated unfairly, and I'm just like, did y'all forget about Ferguson? Did you guys forget about all the others that came before? And, on one hand, like, I'm glad that people are being aware. I'm glad that brands are taking note. But, like, why did it take this? Why did it take this for people to wake up? So I'm just taking it day by day. I'm curious to see what happens. Like, what are the long-term effects going to be? Like, are we going to defund the police? Are we going to have, like, systematic changes in the world? Are we going to have more respect? I don't know.
Yeah. What about you, Adrian? I talked to you earlier this week for Astute Black Voices Week on the Astute Agency. I gained a little bit of knowledge on, how you're feeling, but I feel like maybe just discussing it again here on this platform so everyone can understand.
Yeah, for me, I think I even forgot what I said, how I was feeling the other day. But
It
right
changes,
now,
right?
yeah, I mean, yeah, it changes. I feel like, I guess you can say my mind is steady. I'm like at a steady pace with what's happening because, like Ashley said, like did people forget about Ferguson? I'm from St. Louis, so I was there on the ground when all that stuff was happening. I was there when the organizations were raising money and the money was going to different places. I was there when people were shocked. I was there when people were scared. I was just there. So it's basically to me, it's like a repeat of time. And right now, it shook the world. You know what I'm saying? So where I am, honestly, it's just kind of like I see myself. At first, I was a viewer. I was like viewing everything, and now, like now I'm just like taking it back and just like I was viewing like the process of what was going on, but now I'm viewing the people that are quote unquote wanting to help, or they're now woke. That term kind of like spiral at that one point, like woke. You don't even hear it anymore now. So it's like you kind of seeing like what's all happening. So for now, for me, I'm at a place where just saying like what action is going to be taking place, not just for these few weeks, but 10 weeks after this talk. So I'm trying to see like what APA and other organizations, Aperture, all these photo blogs and the Nikons, the Canons of the world. I'm trying to see what they're going to be on after this. So I'm just want to see like who takes action. For all the CEOs who stepped down or whatever, I'll see who came up after them and see what they do at those companies. You know what I'm saying? So the action we are awaiting to see like what seats are going to be filled that always needed to be filled anyways. That's kind of like what I'm like patiently waiting to see.
Right.
So I'm like at a place where I'm just kind of like sitting back and just watching.
What about you, Khalil?
I was checking to see how I'm still muted. It's I was like, this got Corona, cool. I'm healthy. I'm at home, and then this happened, and it was like just another unexpected, and I mean, now I'm a bit like I expect to see next week who will be shot, or I'm finding that I'm not as surprised anymore. You know what I mean? And it's like all the names that have come out that I didn't even hear of until this. And then it's like, it's just a lot of, like you were saying, emotions. Like I'm angry, I'm surprised, I'm numb, I'm finding myself now educating other people that come to me for answers. And I'm like, I guess, I'm not the spokesman for all Black people, but I can do my best to tell whoever's asking me what my opinion is and where I come from. And I'm finding those conversations are happening more and more like throughout my week. Basically, for the last 2 weeks, I've been talking to white friends and people that are asking, and I'm like, at first I was like, why are you coming to me with all this? You know what I mean? Like, you should have been, this is not new, so you should know what's happening, but it's not their responsibility, or at least it wasn't. And now it's all of our responsibilities to educate all of everybody and talk about this whole thing, because it's been a major problem for forever, basically. And we've been screaming about it, we've been talking about it, and it's like, okay, cool. But and it's interesting too, I don't want to get too far, but a lot of emotions in the last couple of weeks. I don't want to even we'll talk about everything.
Yes, we will. Yeah, we will.
I'm doing okay though.
Yeah, good. What about you, Nicole?
A lot of similar things to what everyone else is saying. I feel like I've kind of leveled out a little bit. I was like super emotional and upset and angry and worried about, you know, I'm happy that people are out and supporting this, but, you know, also coronavirus. So it's just like, everything was so intense, or is so intense. And I had like a meltdown one day, and I called my dad, and he was just like really very calm. And that like calmed me down a lot over the next few days, and I've kind of leveled out. But at this point, I'm seeing my feed go back to normal, and I'm like, no. I've been paying attention to who took the longest to say something, and I'm paying attention to who's going back to normal first. And I'm unfollowing people, and, you know, all that. So I'm paying attention. I'm hope that this all means something. You know, it's hard to have that hope, but, you know, it's been enough time.
Mm-hmm. 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 What about you, Deario?
For me, I mean, it's just been exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's been exhausting. We're kind of forced to deal with things that are out of our hands as far as coronavirus, like everybody else mentioned. And then, you know, I don't want to say a new wave of incidences come in and change the way that we move as the Black community with everything else happening, but this stuff has been happening forever. So, you know, we're not too far from slavery. People want us to forget so much, and I just get so angry thinking about all of these things, especially when it comes to, you know, being a creative, right? This avenue of photography is heavily dominated by the white male. So that's it's an exhausting thought, because there's only so much everyone can do in their own avenue to make sure that we support each other. You know, so it's just exhausting. I don't want to go into everything else because, like everybody else, you know, says, we'll get to those points. But, you know, it's just exhausting.
How have you been all taking care of yourself? Because that is also important during this process too. You know, it's like, you know, while you're processing, you can't always, you don't really always have yourself in mind and your well-being. And so, you know, your mental health, your physical health, things like that. So are there steps that you've been taking, or are there little moments that you've been taking to make sure that you're checking in with yourselves?
I'll start with that just because I'm already unmuted. But I know for me, like, things that I've been doing is just trying to stay at home and learn new things. Like, you know, go to YouTube, practice editing photos, hang out with more family, because I've been so busy for so long that I haven't actually been able to spend time with nieces and nephews who live hours away, and all those different things. And just hanging out with my wife. And yeah, just trying to do my best to keep my mind working, because I'm so used to it working that when it sits, I get anxious. And yeah, just trying to stay busy and remain positive, even though everything that's going on is going on. You know, it's still okay to be positive and to be happy and to smile and to laugh. You know, just, you know, trying to stay in that mindset.
That's good. That's good. Khalil, what about you?
I'm doing well. I got the home workouts and just keeping my mind busy, basically. I do some work at home out of my little home studio. It's a closet, but it does all the work that I need. So I'm still able to stay busy, you know. A lot of the news can just kind of bring you down a little bit, but I stay informed enough, and then I check out, and then I just go and get my work done.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, talk to friends and family and stay level-headed.
Yeah. Ashleigh, what about you? Oh, you're muted, by the way. Sorry, you have to unmute yourself.
A big thing for me has been nature. Living in San Francisco, there's so much nature, and I think that I took it for granted. I live next to this amazing park, and I've been exploring it. There's a whole lake in the park with ducks. It's been really cool. So just walking around my neighborhood, I drive, and I feel like a lot of people in the Bay Area don't drive. So a lot of people walk more, but I don't. So just being able to like literally feel the ground and see the trees, as like hippie sounds. I love that. And I've been creating an urban jungle at home. So I've been buying plants like every time I go to the store. I'm like, a new plant. I just feel like nature just helps you feel grounded and brings you back. So that and breath work. Yeah, meditation.
That's great. What about you, Adrian?
For me, feel like I'm still like in this transitional phase. I'm new to Chicago, Illinois, so I just moved here back in December for my job, which I got laid off from after working for 5 years. So I'm just basically transitioning back to, I guess, freelance life, and just kind of getting accustomed to like not working for somebody else. And like for me, on a mental health thing, I have different pockets, different groups of friends. So I stay afloat with a lot of people and family and stuff like that. So I have my wife here, my kid, my 2-year-old. So spending a lot of time with them. I haven't been doing too much photo stuff other than just like research and stuff like that. But I honestly, just like I said, been transitioning back into like not working for somebody, and ended up picking up some projects, which I'm gonna get into later with a group of friends. Ashley's a part of that group. So we have like our own community that was built during COVID. It's called Hella Creative, where we just a group of creators from the Bay just talking about issues and just things, health, finance, hiring, which is like everywhere. So honestly, that group, and as well as other groups and stuff like that, just kind of been keeping me afloat. And just kind of like just balancing out my new life is like basically not working a full-time job. So, but staying busy with work and stuff like that, personal work. Cool.
All right. Awesome. Nicole?
I've been trying to take it easy on myself. If I feel like working, then I work. And if I don't feel like working, then I just, cook for myself, propagate plants, talk to my friends. I haven't been the best about going outside. I've been a little bit of like a shut-in, but yeah, just really trying to take it easy and not put pressure on myself. I've had some work, which has been good, just to like keep me doing something. And I did one day just make something because I wanted to make something, but I'm just taking it one day at a time. No reason to put pressure right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's always great to be honest with ourselves, but also we need to be honest, especially right now with, our community and other people, even our family members. So I mean, I'm not going to waste any more time. I think, we should just get started with, what's been going on, and your own personal experiences, in the vein of being honest. So my first question is, I'm wondering if you can tell us an instance where you have experienced discrimination as a photographer. Whoever wants to go first, you can go.
I can go first. One incident that stands out to me is one that happened, I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I was working for a really large security company, and they're based in Alabama. And they come to San Francisco, I think, every year for this corporate meeting. And the man who hired me is a Black man, but a lot of his colleagues are white, Southern white. And every time they would see me, like, they'd be super dismissive. When I was organizing the group photo, there was a guy. So I was like elevated on a ladder, and I don't know anyone's name, so I have to ask like by description, like, hey man, with the gray bow tie, can you do this? And white man was like, you even know what you're doing? Have you even done this before? Like, you're not a real photographer. And I just like, I'm standing on a ladder, like, and I'm just like shaking, like this white man is really like trying me right now. Like I'm not even like physically grounded. Like it was just a lot. And I mean, I'm working for this huge company. I'm like, obviously, like I was hired to do this. This is like the second or third time I photographed. And he was just like laughing, and the other white men were laughing. And it took my client, a black man, to be like, I hired her. You know, I'm paying her. You need to listen to her because she's taking our photo. So it was like, like having that advocacy from another black person like made me feel better. But just in that moment, I was like, and, it was just like shocking. I don't think I ever had anyone like just question me in the middle of taking a photo like that.
Right.
And, it was hurtful. For sure.
Yeah. Anyone else?
For me, so I'm not on the commercial side. I'm more on the not on the commercial side of photography. I'm like mostly like kind of like engaging like really in the artsy side and stuff like that. So I like submit my work to a lot of spaces. And I remember when I had into my book, into the Paris Photo Book Awards, I self-published a book on Ferguson in 2015. And the book, it went through. I got it, I made it through, I was accepted and all that. So I went to Paris for the book. But during that process, during the submissions, you got free portfolio reviews, which I honestly don't care for a portfolio review because, how can I say this? It's like, I guess I'm confident in what I'm personally shooting for, who I'm shooting for, you know what I'm saying? And so like, I don't need my work to go to a group of white people to establish how and what I'm shooting, you know what I'm saying? Who I'm photographing.
To like validate what you're doing.
Validate like my sitters or whatever. I don't call them subject, I say sitters. So like whoever I'm photographing. And so I had got a review, but I knew it was going to go through the process, but I wasn't really checking for it. So I get this review back from this photographer from Aperture. And I remember the photograph. It was, I photographed Ferguson. I didn't photograph any of the protests after Ferguson. Like anything that was going on that was dealing with protests, I just didn't photograph it because I exclusively was photographing Ferguson on my behalf because I'm from St. Louis. I went to school in Ferguson. I know the grounds. I know that neighborhood. I know the people and all that. And so for me, I was basically photographing the truthful sides of what the media wasn't showing. And, what I'm saying? Like, I didn't allow them to also dictate anything I was photographing. So after time and time again, getting hit up by different publications and CNN and Fox News, and everybody wanted to take my images and use them in news or whatever, I just didn't give it to them. But during this time I had photographed, I was going through that review, and the photographer, he exclusively pointed out this photograph, this image, basically saying how the photograph could have been, I guess, centered. This, you got to think about it. This is during protests. This is into the time where you're trying to position anybody, you know what I'm saying? And so he's telling me this photo would have been way stronger if you would have positioned this man over here by the stop sign instead of like, because it looks like the stop sign is coming out of the back of his head. We all probably took a photo class before. We know what this stuff looks like. But at the same time, it's like, bro, I asked him. So I was just like, I challenged him. I said, so I said, can we take a phone call? I don't want to do this through email. And he said, sure. I said, so during a heated moment, you would literally ask somebody to move and position them somewhere else to get a photograph taken? He said, yeah, frankly, yes. If I really wanted that photograph, I said, that's the problem. I said, you literally, like, you're looking for the shot. I said, I was looking for the truth. I wasn't doing this for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the reason why I didn't care about this review, because, reviews are taking, like, and shout out to anybody who do reviews. I'm not telling you don't do a review, you know what I'm saying? But like, I didn't choose to go through that process. It was like an automatic entry. or whatnot. And like, you know, he was kind of like taken aback because he's like really high up in aperture and all this. He kind of felt like, who is this guy talking to me this way and all that? And it was just kind of weird because I felt like he's never been talked to this way. You know, like I guess he's never been like people like look up to him, I guess. And for all you all, I'll give you out a name after this. I ain't got to flood his name out right now. But it's just like one of those things where it's just like, this is how it feels to be in a position of power and then feel powerless after somebody else just like tells you like what's up, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like as a photographer, any of us, you know what I'm saying, it's okay. Like I understand, as to your point, like you're on a ladder. You know, he felt empowered by being, even though you was above him being down there, it was just like I can tell her what to do or say these things to her in a way like she's not going to say anything back to me. You know what I'm saying? He caught you off guard. That's basically why he did that. If you was down there below, he probably wouldn't even say them to you. But it's like being able to talk to these people and putting them like in their place. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that was like actually discriminating or whatever, but it was a time where I felt that I had to stand up for my work. And so that's what I did.
Anyone else?
I mean, I had an awkward kind of dialogue between a potential client, and I lost out on a gig for this reason. So, I mean, I don't know. I know I've seen a couple of people follow me since the mentioning of this panel. And if you've seen my work, there's pretty much nothing but black faces. And there's reason for that. There's tons of reasons. But we grow up in a world where everything that we see, and this is just me giving some background into why I felt the way I felt, but everything that we see as far as arts, as far as how we run businesses, as far as how we conduct ourselves as human beings, it's all like the standard is created by the white man. So we have to force ourselves to be versatile. It's almost like a form of code switching in our fields. We have to know how to photograph Black people the way that we want to be photographed and the way that we want to be seen. And then we have to also be able to photograph everybody else, right? So the potential client asked me, hey, I'm just emailing you to make sure that you're able to photograph white people because all you have are Black people on your page. Immediately offended. A person's a person in my eyes. Black people are the only people in the world who feel sympathetic for every other race, no matter what's been done to us. So I just felt offended. I don't know if they were oblivious to it, if they meant it the way that they meant it, but I took it for what it was. I'm a photographer. If there's portraits of a human being on my page, I'm able to photograph a portrait of a human being on my page. White, black, green, yellow, red, purple, orange. Like it's, and I get bothered even bringing the whole incident back up. But like, I ended up telling the client, you know what? Like, I understand where you came from. Obviously, there's some issues going on your side, but I think I'm gonna just go ahead and pass up the gig regardless because that was offensive. I've never, what if I walked in at Apple and asked the person like, hey, I don't know if you're gonna sell me this iPhone, but have you ever sold iPhones to Black people before I buy from you? Like, that doesn't even make sense. That's like me walking into a car dealership and getting treated differently because I'm Black. They don't think I can buy cars because I'm Black. That's ridiculous. That didn't make any sense to me. So that was probably my most frustrating moment of discrimination within my craft. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Did we do everyone? Okay.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I think like that's the most powerful thing that we can do is walk away from things. Because I think when it comes down to these gigs, I think they think that the money or the opportunity is the thing that's like we're going to gravitate towards the most. But I think as, you know, Black creatives at large, it's okay for us to start saying no to things that make us uncomfortable from the jump, you know, because I think, like I said, like I know for a fact that they see what we can do, our abilities, our follow, our swag, whatever. And I think that they think that the money or the thing on the side, my thing is relationships, you know what I'm saying, that means the most to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if I can't walk into a place and feel comfortable and feel who I am, I already know I don't need to be there, first and foremost, no matter how much the bag is. And then it's just like, second, it's like one of those things where, you know, like I said, that's like a power move on your end, because I don't know who the person was that you was working with, but I'm sure it was like a great client on your end. But at the same time, walking away from that, I'm pretty sure you got 3 other clients back tenfold from just leaving that experience. So just shout out to you for doing that.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
definitely not easy to do that. And that actually brings me to my next question, having to do with companies, or, you know, that may be really large, you know, publishing places or technology companies, you know, whatever. But many times I've heard that even from people in charge of hiring photographers or Black artists, that they don't even know where to find Black or people of color photographers or artists to assign these projects to. I'm curious what you think of why that they say this.
I just want to start with that one, but I think the biggest reason, and I mean, I want to name a few reasons, and I also have an example. But one of the biggest reasons I feel like they overlook, because I don't want to use the frame that they don't find us, because they know where we are. But the reason they overlook us is because the content that we produce is Black. And that means they don't believe or even imagine that there's room for us in their space when it comes to creating, you know, product for them. If I'm photographing, you know, Ariat Boot Company, which is, you know, the horse company where they provide boots or, you know, different pieces of clothing for people who ride boots. That's, you know, we have Black cowboys, but that's predominantly white in that area right now. And I've had that client before. But if we're doing work for them in a field where we're predominantly Black, they look at us for things like Black History Month or promoting, you know, being Black forward and inclusivity in these tech companies. I was Instagram, Facebook, they contacted me to shoot for them during a time in Black History Month. They've never hit me before. Google contacted me to come down for Black History Month and take pictures at their facility. And, you know, it's just a bunch of times where it seems opportunistic in a way to approach us during these times where they want, you know, the Black number or the Black appreciation in a sense. So I feel like they overlook us until, you know, like now, there's a bunch of opportunity to hire Black people. And it's obviously for these reasons. But, you know, I feel like they overlook us until they see a time for us as Black people to be put, you know, into their space. Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to say one other thing. There's a photographer named Volandis. A couple of people here might know who he is. I actually have one of his photos in here, and I'm going to grab it real quick because it's a big part of this conversation. Basically, he photographs in Detroit, and he's from the hood, just like I'm from the hood, and some of y'all might be from the hood. I grew up in Oakland most of my life, and I am Black, and I pride myself on being Black. And this picture speaks volumes for me, right? I'm used to this. My hair is my hair, it's locked up. We got a bunch of kinks in here as far as kinky hair and curls. So I wear hoodies when I used to work for, you know, Pete's and all these other places. But what we document and the way we look is often a deterrent to getting us these gigs and progressing in a world where the photographer is often overlooked simply because of what we take pictures of, or even what we wear or how we look. But the problem with that is that our counterparts don't understand and they can't relate. So when they take us out of the running for these different jobs, it's detrimental because they judge us based on things that they don't understand. It's like policing a Black community. You know, we're all Black here. Imagine 3 white photographers coming in here and trying to tell us, just like Adrian mentioned, trying to tell us how to document our truth. Doesn't make sense. So we lose out on a lot of that. And I feel like that's a big deal and a big thing going forward, because like I mentioned, Valandis takes pictures of these people, and he even mentions, and I know a bunch of college educated gun owners who dress and look the way we look, but you know, we're often seen as thug or whatever the case may be. It's a negative light. Do-rags are culture, hoodies are our culture. You know, I often get told that I used to work at Pete's, and I enjoyed working at Pete's Coffee. I learned how to run a business through there. But a big problem with me getting promoted to manager at one point was they said, hey, you should start wearing button downs and look the part. And I took offense. The reason I took offense is because I'm able to buy a button down, but the kids that I mentor at the youth center or the kids that I teach at these schools might not have enough money to buy button downs or ties or anything. And that trade, the old thing that the older Black folk used to say about, well, go find a homeless man and trade him for a tie, or trade this and get you a shirt, go to Goodwill, don't work for me, because that's not how we look. When I walk around in Oakland, I don't often see Black men in button downs. I see them in hoodies and white t-shirts. So why can't we look the way we look and get, you know, the jobs that we deserve at the same time? And
Yeah.
you know, so that's just a big thing that I feel is the reason that we get overlooked in the photography community. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
I'll go. I am in the tech and corporate world a lot. My biggest client is Google, and I've been able to slide my way in there because of Black people at the company, to be 100%. Having especially Black women advocate for me and hire me for not just the Black events, but for like developer conferences or, you know, leadership meetings. I've been hired, and I know they're surprised when they see that I'm the photographer, but I've shown my work. You know, they see my work internally. A lot of my work is NDA, so I can't post it, but internally my work is shared, and it's like that speaks for itself. And they don't know like there's not a picture attached to my name, and a lot of times I don't think they know, but I have just had advocates within the company. And it was like like my first job at Google was a friend who was a Black engineer in New York, and that was my first entryway. And then from there, like other friends that I met in the Bay were able to put me on, and by them hiring me, I always look for Black assistants. Like whenever I have a big job, I'm like, who is coming with me? Because I want to be able to bring up people, you know, like I do want them to reach out to you, Chose. Like I want them to hire us, you know, and know that we can produce great work. You know, we just happen to be Black. And so I feel like I've been lucky in that way, but it's not always easy, you know. So
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
I'm lucky to have advocates for me.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I think Deario was he hit on a strong point that, you know, the content that is shown is mostly white, and you know, if you have Black faces, it's like or if it's let's say it's an all Asian page, or it's easy to just be like, well, they don't have the type of work that we show in our channel, and so we just easily can overlook people, and it, you know, it gets overlooked. The overlooking gets overlooked in a way.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's almost like the stepchild who feels like I'm not getting enough attention, right? We obviously know we're not getting enough attention, but part of the reason is also the parent. And I don't, I'm not using this to say that the white photographer is the parent, or the person hiring the white photographer is like the parent, but like in a sense they are. If we want to live as photographers, if we want to make a living, part of our job is reliant on white people. So, as Black people in our community, when we talk about corporations, there's not too many, or if any, in America, the US, that we can call our own. So when we do miss out on these jobs, it's important for our counterparts to advocate for us. When Steve called me the other day and he addressed a couple of things on how he felt, I took it as, some people would take offense to a bunch of these different dialogues that go on between, other people who aren't Black. And I don't want to use the term people of color, because people of color and Black people are two different things. There was no colors on the sign, 60, 70, 80 years ago. So that term is done for. So Black people, we often have these places where, we get treated like that stepchild. And that's the problem. Our content is not seen. It's not a normal thing. Shooting guns in our world is not normal. But when we get turned away for a job because there's a picture of somebody holding a gun on our page, but we're calling a 5-year-old who knows how to work a gun, who's white, at a gun show, calling him cute and adorable, that's a problem. That's an issue. And we should see it as such. Part of the reason that we don't get seen as, equal on our platforms is not because of the content, that we take, but literally because of the skin color. And that's like that's a big issue. And I don't know how we can tackle it and how we can change it, because as Black people, I feel we do the most to try and change these things. And we go above and beyond and exceed our own expectations. So that part's not up to us. I'm not gonna go to the Black community and say, hey, y'all need to learn how to do this, or like the whole Black on Black crime thing, y'all need to learn how to do this, because if I'm an outsider, I can't tell them how to police their communities. That's something we do within. So in order for the businesses to hire and change and actually hire and include and be diverse, that's on them. That's their responsibility. They need to hire us. I shouldn't have to fight for that job. My work shows for itself. Yeah, and that's not me being cocky, but
I wanted to piggyback on that and say it is super important to have white allies. Like, we do need people to advocate for us. And I talked about it with Nader. I talked about it in our Facebook group for photographers. And I said, like, if the biggest way to support us is to hire us. Hire a Black assistant. Look for Black photographers. And I said, it will take me days to find an assistant, but I will put in that work, because that's important to me. That's important to how I run my company. Instead of like, there's a plethora of white men I can hire, but I choose not to, because they're already in a privileged position. Like, if it takes me a week to find a Black woman that I can hire as an assistant, like, I'm going to put in that work. And we need other people to put in that same work to bring us up. So you see us, so we're more visible. So our work isn't scary. So you see that we're multifaceted, like, we can shoot corporate photography and we can shoot portraits in the hood. Like, we can do both.
Right.
Basically, see us as human.
The value has to change, essentially. Like, fundamentally, the value has to change of us as creators, what we have to offer, also our own lens and how we see the world. And the reason why we are photographing or showing things that are, Black or whatever, but it's just our lives, and it's our neighborhoods, it's our aunts, it's our neighbors, it's our, it's the guy who runs the corner store, that, we're capturing these moments. And this is also the reason why it's important, because you're documenting people's lives, right? You're documenting these communities, and you're showing that this lens, and then that seeing these things and these people and these circumstances are valuable, because otherwise they would not exist. And And so you know, I'm just curious though, like, in order for the value and the valuation of the work can change, what do you think has to happen in order for Black photographers to be brought on board more often into these jobs?
I mean, people have to make a concerted effort. I mean, when I hear I can't find a Black photographer, I think, have you tried the internet? Like, what? Have you tried Instagram? You can find anything that you want on the internet. So do the work, look for them. And
Exactly.
like Ashleigh was saying, it might take you longer, and you might be going outside of your regular circle of people, which it seems like in the commercial photography world, people are used to working in these tight circles where the most important thing is who you know. And if you don't know someone, you're not going to hire them. And I understand that there's a certain amount of risk in these, especially in these larger jobs, with hiring someone that you don't know. But at what point, like, you have to give people a try. You have to go outside of your circle. You have to look and do the work, or else it doesn't get done. And saying that you can't find people is just a cop out. It's easy to say, I can't find them. Like, come on.
Exactly. Anyone else?
For me, like, I worked in. Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
I've worked in corporate and tech, so I kind of already know what that world is like from working in it and being a part of it, and like also doing things doing things as a photographer. So I think, like, Nicole says, it's about doing that work, and it's not just doing the work; it's like wanting to do that work. And to the allies out there, if you know a particular person on your team who exclusively doesn't look for a Black photographer or photographers outside of their norm or whatever, you call them out. Like, it's okay to call somebody out. Like, you're not going to get in trouble. And if they talk bad at you, you know what I'm saying, that's called guilt. Like, you got to get used to that. And it's not our fault that they feel that way. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and it also starts at hiring Black people, you know what I'm saying, in these places, because you wouldn't have all these stupid ass accidents where somebody was blackface or something like that, or they quote unquote misused a photo or misused a term and stuff like that. That wouldn't happen if it was only 5% of Black people in the company. Even thinking about this talk, I don't know if you all paid attention to the photo, but it's hella white people surrounding the title of this talk. You know what I'm saying? So even APA, you know what I'm saying? If you don't have Black people represented in APA, after this talk, all of us need to be represented as a part of APA. Like, in every other APA out there, you know what I'm saying, for those people in there. That's the problem, that it's like you all pretend that there isn't a seat at the table. It's hella chairs out there. It may not be room at that square table, but it's hella chairs out there. You know what I'm saying? So, like, just pull up that chair, and, it's not even about, like, I used to think, like, this whole thing, like, people are uncomfortable. But for what reason, though? Like, why are you uncomfortable? Like, I'm here existing just like you. I probably know something that you don't know, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that I know. I mean, I don't know that you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like we can actually dialogue and learn with each other. Nobody ever said that they didn't want to learn. I never said I didn't want to learn from the next person. You know what I'm saying? I'm an open book. It's just like, just put us in. You know what I'm saying? Give us a seat at the table. And I think another thing is, and I'm gonna pass on, I think it's just like all about, like, not wanting to be passed up or having that person overstep something. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have to climb the same ladder as you. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, yeah, I don't want to always be the entry level something. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all above and beyond that or whatnot. That's what it's going to take. So after this, like I said, it's going to take having, like, Black women on leadership boards, Black women being a part. And I'm saying Black women because Black women are always the last on the totem pole. So it's like Black women representing and being a part of these different spaces in the corporate world. You know what I'm saying? Black women being on these photography boards. There's hella Black women photographers out there that I can name, like a lot of them that are insanely talented. And I know you see it. You know what I'm saying? It's about who you want to see. You know what I'm saying? I know you know, like, especially like these like high-end photographers and everybody else is like, it's no way in the world that like Amy Leibovitz, however you say her name, doesn't know black women photographers out there. It's no fucking way. You've been photographing for years, and you mean to tell me like it took this long? It took an incident for somebody to like, oh my God, we never had a Black photographer. This is crazy. And then the first time you do it, you put LeBron James next to a white woman. Like, come on, you know, like this doesn't make any sense, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just like, that's what's it's going to take that, you know, it's going to take those roles.
Yeah. That actually brings me to my next question. Even myself, like as a food and wardrobe stylist, when I'm on set or when I'm in the room, I'm usually the only Black person there. And I'm curious, you know, when you're in this position, because I know it's happened to all of us at some point, when you're in this position, what are the advantages and disadvantages of being the only Black person in the room?
I feel like 9 times out of 10, even when I used to assist, I was always the only Black dude on set, every single time. At the weddings, you know, if I assist, I'm probably like the third Black guy there, just attending the wedding in general. Or if I'm, you know, a corporate client, you know, I'm just always the only Black guy for some reason. But I don't feel like there's a big advantage other than, you know, you now know someone who might hire you. The disadvantage is a lot bigger being the only Black guy there, because it's not as comforting knowing that, you know, there's 2 ways to look at it. Someone either went out of their way to hire you on an all-white set, meaning that there's tons of people who have assistants. Stylists have assistants, makeup artists have assistants, hair has assistants, photographers have assistants, producers have assistants. There's a ton of different assistants. So one person went out of their way to hire you on an all-white set. We're all Black, and you know, my wife is lighter than me, and she went to Santa Cruz and she wears sunscreen. But I was on an all-black set or all-white set, and they gave me the weird look, like I don't know if I should ask them. And like, you know, they look away, look back at their hand, look away. Hey, do you want sunscreen? Like, I don't know, you know, how I should feel about that, but like, it's not an advantage of being the only Black guy on set. You know, when you realize that you're the only Black guy on set. I don't want to be reminded for any reason that I'm Black on set versus like I'm a dude on set or I'm a person on set. It feels uncomfortable. And oftentimes,
it's hard to focus and work when you're preoccupied thinking that.
Yeah. And then there's also limiting expectations that come along with being the only Black person on set, because then we get all the Black questions. How do you feel about this? Oh my God, can I touch your hair? The most absurd question ever. Don't touch my fucking hair. Like, it's ridiculous. You know, all of the things that we're put on this, you know, we're a tiger in a zoo when we are on these sets. That's why I feel like there's rarely any advantage to being the only Black person on set, other than the fact that they might pay you again. So yeah.
You also got to take that sunscreen though. We definitely need to wear sunscreen.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yes,
And that's why I felt the way I felt.
Skin,
that's why
so,
I said my wife puts on the sunscreen. She's like, just give me the sunscreen. Don't remind me that I'm Black while doing it.
That's a funny question that you asked.
We just won't turn red.
I never considered that question, being the only Black. I just assumed that I would be, you know. And it's interesting because I worked with there's only one other time where the videographer was a black dude, dreaded, real talented, and I clung to him. It was like we were a team almost. You know, we were doing different jobs and we were on a different side of the set. And I would just always look over at him like, "You cool? Cool. I'm cool. You cool? Yes." And it was a bond, and that was beautiful. But it's like it was a treat. You know, you don't. I mean, imagine where it was like every single time you get to a set, every single time you get to a location, there's 12 black people. You know what I mean? From the assistant to the person grabbing the coffee to the head, you know, shot to the producer, and then you got a couple of white people. I mean, that's unheard of, right? So unless it's like a Spike Lee movie or something crazy like that, like that's until you're really in a spot where you have a big production where it's an all black something, you just won't see this. And it's a crazy question because I never considered it. I just accepted it that, hey, I'll get there on time, like you said earlier, because you have to work harder. Everything, you know, my mom told me, hey, at a young age, you are this way and everyone is gonna see you as a black man. So you need to get there 10 minutes early. You need to, you know, be set up in a way that you stand out because you're gonna stand out. So yeah, it's interesting that I never even thought about that I was the only black person. I mean, of course, but you don't. It's not unexpected, I guess, and that's a problem. That's a real problem. There are a lot of very talented black artists out there, very talented, and it's a shame that we don't see more of us.
Yeah, I would think that the only advantage is if there's someone in the room who happens to be doing the work of trying to find a black photographer to hire. Like that's all I can think of. And thinking back to like the first time I went to an APA meeting, which was last year, I walked into the room and I was like, this is a lot of white dudes. Okay, here I am. Barely even any women in the room. And yeah, it's just, I mean, I have spent most of my life in rooms where I'm the only black person. My mom was white. I was mostly raised by my mom. I went to schools that were predominantly white. I played on sports teams that were mostly white. Like, for me, it's not unusual, but you just always have this awareness. And, you know, it's uncomfortable. And for different people, the comfortability would be obviously different. But I mean, the difference between you feeling confident enough to introduce yourself to someone at a networking meeting could be the difference between that having been a good use of your time or not. And, you know, yeah, that's all.
I just want to say real quick that like, imagine, you know, and this is for everybody listening, not just the speakers at all, because I imagine that you all know how I feel, but just imagine growing up in a box where everybody looks like you. And at a certain age, you're allowed to leave this box. Matter of fact, not allowed, you're forced to leave this box and go outside. None of them look like you outside of that box. How would that make you feel? That is, you know, you got all of these people who want us to forget, you know, that we're black when we walk outside every day. They want us to forget the black struggle that we go through every day, but we can't. Everybody around us looks black. So when we come out into the real world and the companies, you know, the heads of these companies, the CEOs, CFOs, the, you know, the businesses in the area, you know, the city itself, if it all looks white, there's a problem. Not because we as black people say it's a problem, but because if I'm looking at a like Adrian said, if I'm looking at a picture of a chair, you know, a table full of white people, and I don't see any other color there, that's a problem itself. Not because we as black people say it's a problem, but because you're not including somebody in this discussion. And exclusion for everybody feels bad most times. You know, no one says, I don't want to be, you know, a good person. Nobody says that. So we're not talking about just excluding yourself from bad topics, but just excluding, you know, Black people from, you know, the world in general. You're trying to take us out of ourselves. You want us to say, you know, no, there's not an issue, but there's an issue. We know there's an issue. Nobody looks like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in really quick and say, I haven't been on sets, but just shooting a lot of corporate and tech events. I would say there's not like a huge advantage, but just the familiarization has been beneficial, I think, because now, like when I show up at certain buildings in Sunnyvale, like they know I'm there for business. They know I'm the photographer. They know that I was hired. And I think just having that familiarity, you know, that a lot of these companies don't have. And I've been lucky that I've had, you know, like I keep using the word advocate, but like had people advocate for me to be there, to bring my teams there. And so, yeah, I don't know if that counts as an advantage or not, but just them seeing like, it's going to be this Black woman photographer. Like this is what it is. And that's just been, I feel like, a way to open up the doors for other people to see like, oh, maybe we should have more diverse vendors, you know, maybe we should use this vendor list that we have that we don't ever use. So yeah, maybe that's an advantage, maybe it's not, but just seeing us in spaces has been a good experience for me.
Yes, I mean, I mean, I see it on both sides. I mean, personally, I use it as an advantage to make sure that I can hire an assistant who is a person of color or is Black or trans or a member of a minority group, so that as I'm opening the door, someone else is walking through with me. And I feel like those, you know, we need more of these opportunities, because that's the more exposure these companies get, the better off they'll be, you know, with the stories that they choose to share with their audiences and their customers, and even the perspectives that we offer. We've been left out of the equation a lot, and you know, we're finding out about this in the news. You know, owners of these companies are stepping down. You know, people are reforming, you know, their workflows and their ethos and their practices. And, you know, honestly, if I were to name all of them, I'd be here all night, because I swear, you know, it's 2 or 3 companies every day that, you know, there's another one that we're finding out. I'm curious what you guys have to say to these companies that, you know, whose discrimination practices are now, you know, coming to light and being revealed.
Real quick, I want to say to you 3 women who are here right now talking, that just thank you, because everything that y'all have mentioned and everything that y'all say, and just being Black and knowing Black women and growing up in a Black woman's household, y'all carry the world on y'all back for no reason. Like y'all do it just because y'all want to see other people win and grow, and like that's the only reason. You guys just love everybody with an abundance of, you know, love. So I just want to say thank you to y'all, because every single, you know, thing that I've heard you 3 say has just been in the benefit of others other than yourself. And that's something that we see all the time with Black women, and that's something that we as Black men don't commend Black women on, because we don't, you know, we're just as detrimental to Black women as the rest of the world. And, you know, it takes a lot. So thank you. But the other half of that, you know, to answer the question is, I think, you know, it's one, I want to say it's an issue. Over 3 trillion Black dollars circulate throughout these white companies, meaning that we are probably the ones buying up all your product, Canon, Nikon, Apple, whoever it may be. So if that's not enough reason to reach out to somebody who looks like your customers, to have someone who looks like your customers on the board, so you don't mess up an ad, or you don't, accidentally say the wrong thing because it comes off insensitive to the Black community. There should be Black people who are a part of this company. So I just want to say that, and that's a huge thing that needs to change within these companies. And that's what I say directly to every single one of their faces. There's no Black Canon ambassador. All of the photographers, and I know a couple of the photographers, and I've shot with a couple of the photographers on Sony. Where's the teal and orange Sony photographers who shoot that are Black? None. Like, come on now, it's an issue. So, I just want to leave it at that.
I want to touch on that also. I mean, you can, as we all know, this quote unquote cancel culture, you get called out and within an hour, everybody on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram knows about it. So I think it really would benefit these companies to hire on Black people and be like, yo, can you come into this meeting? Are we gonna, with all this copy, are we gonna mess up our, I think it's valuable to have our voices out there and kind of just be a little bit of the say for, our own people. And, you hear all the stuff that comes out of these massive companies like H&M or whatever it may be. And this stuff is like they said, what? And this is this could all be avoided with a little bit of buffering and communication.
A little bit of color.
A little bit of color. Thank you.
Yeah, my only concern with all these CEOs stepping down is, one, is that a cop-out? And two, what are you going to do moving forward? Like, I'm a member of the Wing. The Wing CEO stepped down. There's been a lot of drama, and a lot of us are like, so what's next? Like, are there going to be more women of color? Are we going to address the issues? Or is there going to be a reform within the company policies? Or is it just going to be another white woman that's going to replace the white woman who stepped down? So like Adrian said earlier, like, who's taking the place? What's going to be the long-term, what's the end goal here? Like, is it just good PR that you're like, our problematic CEO is stepping down? If you bring in another problematic CEO, it don't mean nothing. So what is the change? Like, what is the goal here? That's that's kind of what I'm wondering.
I feel like while working in tech and stuff like that and seeing what the overarching roadmap is, I put it like this: for anybody out there working in tech, anybody on this call who friends work in tech or whatever, if that roadmap doesn't show change in the organization, then that's the problem right there. Ain't no roadmap. There isn't a roadmap. The roadmap showing all these numbers and all that stuff, that doesn't mean anything. Look at Google listening to me right now. It's just she didn't understand. She doesn't understand what a roadmap is. But it's just for me, if that roadmap doesn't show change on the orgs or whatever, on teams, then that's the problem. And to all the allies out there who sit in on these meetings, these exec meetings, and they see the roadmap before everybody else in the company, call it out right there. It's right in front of you. It's right there. You're not gonna get fired, and if you do get fired, you shouldn't be there anyways. That's how you know. You know what I'm saying? There are so many different platforms where we can write reviews about these companies that quote unquote love us and all this type of stuff. Put their ass on blast right there. The seat is open. Everything is open right there. So I think that's the thing. I think we need to get into place where these companies need us way more than we need them. Way more. And so that's the overall thing. Once we know that, once that is coming out of you, once it comes from here or whatever, then you'll be okay. That's definitely how I feel or whatever. So, check out those roadmaps and see basically what change is going to come after that CEO stepped down or before that CEO even steps down. Every year, once you see those, once you get into those meetings or whatever, and within that 45 or 30, don't even let it get past 30 minutes. seriously. Don't even let it get past 15 minutes. Call it out right there. Like, hey, you haven't said anything about change on this organization, who's going to be on this team, you know what I'm saying, what this is going to look like. If there are 2 diversity and inclusion meetings during a year, that's a problem. Like, come on. Like, let's stop it right there. So it's like that's the ultimate call out.
Yeah, piggybacking off of the diversity training, a friend of mine works at a tech company, and her team is part of the team that decides who's going to come and do that talk for them. And they were looking at this woman and had gotten her rate and everything. And she said, do you guys all find it problematic that we're hiring a white woman to come and do this for us? And she was afraid to say that because of the room that she was in. And she was surprised that the feedback from that comment was, we're glad you said something. Like, yes, let's find a Black person to give this talk. And I have to think that if that room were less white, that wouldn't be such a hard thing to say.
And I just want to say something real quick. It's not enough to just hire, Black people or bring Black people on board, but also give them a platform to change, said org, because, we can hire Black people as much as we want, but not giving them a voice while they're a part of that company means nothing. Going back to the same thing I said earlier, imagine a company trying to make change within an org, but there's no Black people at that table. You can't make a change that is in benefit of, Black people if there's no, if you don't give them a seat and a voice at that table.
Yes. I mean, I think a lot of these situations, Black people and people of color who are discriminated against or experience something in the workplace in real time are actually afraid of retaliation and afraid that this will come back against them. And even, I'm sure even now, this is the case. So the stories that we have heard are probably, there was the one on Reformation. Elle basically just commented on an article and Diet Product took it and ran with it. And it basically is the story that you know now. So, we're in these situations, and I think there will be more stories, but I think that it might take more time for us to find that out, because people, it's scary to come out and like Nicole was saying to, hey, like, this is a problem, just like, even like being a whistleblower or just kind of tapping someone on the shoulder and being like, this isn't a good idea. We're definitely in new times, but I think we haven't heard enough because there is the fear factor. And if we're going to be moving forward and hiring, more Black people and more people of color, and Black photographers specifically for this conversation, what do you think has to change so that we're not left out of the equation, so that we don't feel afraid, to speak up and raise our voices?
There needs to be some kind of company protection, or like you were mentioning, whistleblower programs where people won't fear for their jobs, because that's a huge part of the issue, like you said, is people speaking out in fear of retaliation.
And I think we need to remove whoever, is the reason for us being scared of this, because that's a problem. Yeah. I shouldn't be, afraid of voicing, anything when it comes to discrimination or, policy when it comes to being Black, or, haircut. I need to cut my hair. There was a job in San Francisco a bunch of years ago when I was like, oh my God, I have a possible option to take pictures as a job. Wasn't like a super dope job or anything. It was like taking pictures for Alcatraz or something, or boat rides. And They were like, okay, you're tight. I like the interview. Cut your hair. Why is that? Why are you asking me that? What's the reasoning? What is that going to do to benefit the business? And what is that going to do to benefit me? Those people who ask those type of questions should be fired.
And that's what I
There's
was saying
no,
earlier.
there's no, it's going to happen again.
Yeah, it is. And that's the thing. When somebody hear that type of stuff on that thing, you call that person out. You know what I'm saying? That's wrong. CEO Frank of whatever company this is, that was wrong for you to say. That doesn't make any sense. That's when the ally, that's when you step in. Like that's where we need you the most. You know what I'm saying? These parts. Especially if I'm your friend or we eat lunch together or we do all these things. We talk about film and geeky stuff or whatnot, and something like that happens and you freeze up, we're done. Like we're done, Don't call me, don't email me, don't ask me for anything. Like if you see me walk past you and don't say nothing to you on purpose, like, it's because of that. You didn't stand up for me. You wasn't there for me during that moment. That didn't make any sense because that makes me feel that you probably feel that way too, and I'm not here, what I'm saying, to make you feel comfortable or whatever, for you to say like, oh, I have Black friends. That doesn't make any sense. Like if I say I'm going to be there for you or do something for you, then that's what I actually mean. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing goes for you. It's been plenty of times where co-workers of mine who was mistreated at work, and I said, hey, you don't have to be treated that way. You know what I'm saying? You can say something. It's been so many freaking times, and this is like, I feel like even them, they're afraid too. You know what I'm saying? It's like they are afraid as much as like quote unquote we are. You know what I'm saying? Because we have a lot to lose, but I don't know what they feel like they have to lose, because if any one of them get fired from a company, best believe they're gonna have a job the next week. It's gonna be us. It's gonna take like 2 or 3 weeks or for months, or pulling strings, seeing who Black at the company, following all the Black people in LinkedIn, and try to get that job. Versus it's like we have way more experience, we have way more credentials, and we probably not even using that to probably get there. We actually probably trying to use our skill set that we know to get into that job, just like the next person got into that job. So that's kind of like, that's why we need those allies.
Yeah, definitely what Adrian is saying about allies. It makes me think of that story that just surfaced on Twitter, I think yesterday, with a Black woman at Pinterest who was doxxed by a white colleague, and the company didn't do anything. And so it's like, who's advocating for her? Like, her safety is in jeopardy at this point, and what are you guys doing? It's not all just like hush hush, like this is a serious situation, this could be a legal situation. Like, who is advocating for her? Why didn't more people step up?
Yeah, exactly.
We need those allies.
Yes, we do.
We really do. We can scream from the top of the rooftops all day, and until it takes someone else, I don't want to say on the other side, but on the other side, to step up and go, yo, yeah, I've seen this too. It's not right, or whatever it is. Speak up for us, because there's been many times where I haven't been hired, and I shouldn't have to question if my race came into play. I mean, and I don't know how many times I've wondered, was it because I'm Black? Was it because there's a better candidate? Was it because I'm Black? So I feel like a lot of white photographers don't have that thought. Was it because I was white? What? And so, yeah, I think we just need, like you said, over time, and yeah, we waited too long, but it's people that are going to speak up on our behalf. Unfortunately, like we have to rely on people, but we can do all the hard work that we need to. But it really is up to those allies to kind of just take one little step up, and then we'll do the work. Give us a shot.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that I feel like after this question that you just asked, Jillian, is that the biggest takeaway is that for the white people listening, or anybody who's not Black, because we do have, other people of color, Asians, Latino, Mexican, whatever it may be, like people who are white passing, who still get these opportunities, even though they're people of color, right? In order for you to realize that there's a problem when it comes to Black people, is to first admit there's a problem. Just like every AA meeting, any drug addict or, alcohol abuse addict or any person has been to, I haven't been to anyone, but we all know where I'm going with this. Is the first step is to admit there's a problem. You can't change anything without acknowledging the problem first. So, we need more white advocacy for Black bodies. That's just plain and simple. So just want to leave it at that.
Yes. We have about 10 minutes before we start the question and answer portion. So we have a couple questions already, but as they come in, I'm just going to ask you all this question because I think it's important, and I think it's also why we're here. It's, why is the Black lens important, especially right now?
I think it's super important right now because our voice is unique. It's one that hasn't, when it comes to music, we've done everything. There's not one genre of music that we haven't touched. It's even jazz music came out of classical music. Not many people know that, but I went to college for music. And I played in music all my life. I went to Oakland School for the Arts, downtown Oakland, and I came up as a musician. But it's a heavily dominated area by Black folk. We are pop music. We are, the most popular genre of music possible. Why? Because of our perspective. We're an anomaly in every single way. So when you see Black people who live in the hood, Black people who live in the suburbs, Black people who live in the hills, Black people who drive this type of car, Black people with blonde hair, Black people with black hair, Black people with red hair, we're an anomaly in every field, especially photography, because we document everything just the way we see it. We don't try and streamline. We document what's in front of us. I'm not censoring anything. Just like the homie Volandis, just like Adrian's, wall in the back. Those pictures are dudes with do-rags. Like that's one dude wearing do-rag. That's us. That's our culture. That's what we document. And if we take that away, what are our kids gonna see? I don't have children, but when I do, I want them to view Blackness as beautiful, not because we tell them that, but because it is. And that's why the Black lens is so important, because not only do we choose to document, headshots for, whatever company it may be, take these pictures for Facebook or work at Viesco or anything, right? We also document our hoods. We document our household. We shoot Black faces, and we help those memories, and we push those movements forward because Black lives do matter. So I feel like that's why the Black lens is very important, especially now.
I think the Black lens is important. I do have a child, and she's 2 years old. I definitely try to take her to every show, anything that I'm involved in art. She's right by my side, along with my wife. And this is because she can see the fact that, at an early age, and she can tell her friends or whatever, hey, my dad is a photographer. He has work at the National Portrait Gallery, so, or he has work at SF Camera Works and all this type of stuff. That work that he had in these particular spaces before and after, before things happen now and then, like, earlier, it's all comes from a certain point of like struggle in a way. And the work that you see behind me basically expresses us as looking at us as threats. And to me, like, the Black lens is it is important. It's most dominant because like we're literally taking photos. I know I'm personally literally taking photos from the struggle. You know, I can tell a quick story about there was a protest going on. I believe it was when they didn't rule Oscar Grant, like the officer that killed Oscar Grant. I believe it was then. It was a protest going on, or going to happen. And then a Slack message went out basically saying, like, if you feel uncomfortable about coming to work, don't come to work because of the protests. I was like, nah, you're going to come to work because I have to go to work every day. I'm the one with the target on my back, obviously. You know, I can just be walking to work and probably won't make it to work because of how I look, you know, or what I'm dressed in, or where I'm actually walking from and going in, where I'm entering, you know what I'm saying? So I have to feel this every day, you know what I'm saying? And you telling me that you can't feel it or see it or witness it for a day, it's okay, you'll be fine, you know what I'm saying? So like, that's kind of like how I feel, or what I know, like from the Black lens, and seeing all the photographers that are out there in the world, you know, beyond Gordon Parks and all them, like, you know, obviously they show the struggle too in their work, you know, and there are photographers now, as I see, like a good friend of mine, Andre Wagner, Photo Dre, he shoots the same type of work, you know what I'm saying, as a modern day Gordon Parks, you know what I'm saying? So like, that's why, because he's going to be the next Gordon Parks, you know, and like to see all of this work that we put out there, you understand, like, you know, like when you see work coming from Devin Allen and then seeing him laying a Time magazine cover and really not having a conversation with him about how does that feel. His work before Devin Allen took that photograph, the first one, I was already following Devin, you know, and Devin work was already amazing. So to see him get that cover and now to see other photographers chasing that cover, you're chasing something that you got to live with for the rest of your life, because that photograph that he took came from pain. It didn't come from him trying to like get a Time magazine cover. It came from knowing that his city was literally burning. It came from knowing that his city was literally crying. His city needed help. You know what I'm saying? And these other like up and coming photographers are like these white photographers who are seeking to get these shots, going into our community to photograph these uprisings or causing all this rhetoric, this hell at night to get that shot. That's not funny. You know what I'm saying? That actually hurts, because you got to go back. The thing is, it's not going to bother you because you get to go back to your big ass house elsewhere and not have to worry about that. Versus like, we got to sleep in these spaces or whatever. So that's why the Black lens is important, because that literally comes from the heart. That's not really coming from talent. That's not talent. You know, that's coming from like within, you know what I'm saying? That's coming from pain. So that's why the Black lens is really important.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We have 3 questions. The first one I have is, how do you prove racism is the reason for being or not being hired for a project?
There's a easy answer, and then there's a like long explanation on why this can be, you know, the way that the question you should ask yourself first is, when you walk into the workplace, are there any people who don't look like me? That's racism. Whether you see it or not, racism can also be subtle. It doesn't have to be dramatic outbursts. It doesn't have to be you calling me the N-word. It doesn't have to be you calling me black boy. It doesn't have to be anything. All it has to do is oppression from the class system when it comes to color of your skin. There's black people down here is why we're a minority, and there's white people up here. There's approximately 330 million white people in America, and there's about 45 million black people in America. If 99% of those white people are in these positions of power, whether that be a job as a CEO or even a hiring supervisor or manager. If there's no Black faces in that job, it's not because the Black people aren't qualified. It's because we're not seen as valuable enough for the job. That's racist. Whether it's inherently racist or directly racist, it's racist. And you contribute to it by not trying to change it. And that's, the short answer.
That's your proof.
And I mean, it outside of photography as well. Like I mentioned, I was at Pete's. I worked in the coffee industry for 10 years. I was at Starbucks first, and I was at Pete's after. I've always, ever since I've been an artist my whole life, but I've always wanted to not work when I was younger, my goal was to not work for the white man. When I got older, I realized that wasn't an issue. It's not working for the white man. I just don't want to work for anybody else other than myself. So it's not blaming it on the white man or anything, but it's the fact that it's so much harder for me to navigate through these hurdles. If I have to change my shirt to be a manager, if I have to navigate through more hoops than you have to go through because you grew up with button downs and silver spoons and white picket fences. I didn't. I have to go through more hurdles than the next person. I have to go through more hurdles than the poor white man. That's racism. That's what it is. If I'm working at Pete's and I have to do this just to move up to manager or district manager or this or whatever it may be, or I have to change my dialect because I talk different, I don't code switch for pretty much nobody. I do have a way that I speak, which is, the way it is because I'm able to reach for more words than others. But that's how you prove it. That's the proof. The proof is in the pudding. It's in the ingredients. This country was built on it. So, yeah, I'm doing all these hand movements. Nobody can see what I'm doing because my camera is too. But yeah, it's what it is. That's what it is. I mean, we're all Black, and we're not telling you this for a random reason. We're not making it up. I mean, 9 times out of 10, if 10 people in the building are screaming fire, it's probably on fire.
All right. That's, yes, thank you for that. Here's another question. Do any of you feel like you have a strong sense of creative community? Are you part of any groups or organizations, or even just a strong creative friend circle where you feel supported, uplifted, and can share your business and industry stories and resources?
Yeah, none of that includes white people though. Not in a way to downplay anything or just to throw shade at anybody, but one of my homies, his name is Darren. He's also a part of the SF Image Makers group that's on Facebook. Ashleigh knows a bunch of people that I know. Adrian knows a bunch of people that I know, and I actually follow Adrian on Twitter. But we uplift ourselves in outside of our community as Black people, and we also uplift ourselves inside of our tight-knit community as Black people. Now we'll come in and say something and y'all might not know the people that I'm mentioning, but just to give, example and insight into the question and my way of answering. But now I might say, nah, don't do that because you asking them for a favor, but you need to do it yourself. In my opinion, for me, that's uplifting for me. Learning to do things ourselves is something that we've always had to do as Black people. So yes, I do feel like there's a strong sense in the creative community, and we're all a part of these groups of our own. Like he mentioned, Hella Creative, they're a part of their groups, and we have ourselves who we uplift each other every day. We comment on each other's work. We put emojis with 100 signs and fire signs to let each other know that we either support each other really tough or heavy, or we just plainly fuck with each other's work. It's that simple. But none of that, and I don't say this again to bash anybody who's not, Black or of color, but none of that really includes too many white people. There's a guy by the name of Erich Vallow in the SF Image Makers group, and he's been an advocate for Black people in his own way as a white male, and I respect him to the utmost power because of the fact that he voices his opinion strongly on lack of Black representation, just in general, or just on the policy surrounding policing Black neighborhoods or anything that may be. And those people are needed. And that's somebody who I say, if I were to make that a group, just call our friendship a group, then I'd agree, yes, that is a thing, but there's not enough of it. So yeah.
I think that underground, those base friendships are important. I know one Black photographer in Oakland, B. Malik, who, every time he gets, every time I see him, basically, he's like, yo, what you got? What you're working on? You wanna, let's vibe, let's talk. And that type of stuff there's a squirrel on the roof, but that type of stuff is what I'm seeing more. And, after these last few weeks, I'm getting hit up more often, and it's not by Black photographers necessarily, but we've always had this kind of a bond, not underground by any means, but it's just that kind of a bond where, anytime I get extra work, I'm like, B, are you busy? What's up? So he's kind of the first person that I would think of in order to help me, just because he knows innately, like immediately, he's going to know where I'm coming from instead of have to like kind of bring on, it's a tighter knit for some reason. It's hard to explain that. And, I feel like he's gone through some of the same struggles that I have as a Black photographer, and we just kind of connect and click on that level. So, and now I'm starting to see more like these higher Black photographers network, these things that are coming out, and these are beautiful, but it's all brand new, it's not brand new in the way that, Black photography is not new. It's this, let's all, let it be known that we want to connect with each other, whether we know each other or not now. So that's kind of a really big step within us, our own community.
I want to piggyback off that higher Black photographers thing a little bit. I think it's very important to have these organizations and groups. And I know Jillian is leading this as far as the questions go, but Lisa asked a follow-up question that's a part of the same question. And I have a friend who, strongly advocates for Black photographers, and his name is Omar, and he goes by I Am on Me's, and he is, part of the reason that Billboard is on the phone, with me, or Getty Images is on the phone with me, because us as Black photographers have such a tight knit group or, community that we advocate for each other strongly, so much to that we're willing to lose a job just so one of our friends can get that job, because it's necessary. The Black community doesn't thrive, heavily or as heavily, as far as the art community goes, on the backs of each other, right? Like trying to step on each other's back. We love our community and we embrace our community, and we want to see everybody win. And so when it comes to like the higher Black photographer things, I think that's a really big thing, and a really big way to advocate for each other is to, maybe the way you can support us is by saying, you know what, I've had this gig 10 years straight. Let me give this to my Black counterpart. Let me find someone to give this job to that I know, can do the work. So, yeah.
And those who are looking for ways to find Black folks or whatever in the Bay, obviously, I'm not in the Bay anymore, but I still have a lot of ties in the Bay. So, I mean, Ashleigh, I hired Ashleigh at gigs, or got her a gig here too and stuff like that. And that's just because it's like, I know she was the person for the job. It's obvious, but always just hit me up or whatever. I can point you to the direction of like a billion photographers, marketers, creatives, or whatever you need in the Bay, across the Bay Area. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely always here, because when I was in that position or whatever, every event I did was purposely Black. Super, like to the core. So, and it was people coming in from other cities coming into this company. So it's just like, that's the thing when I think like having to prove something or whatever, I'm like, I think we should always, I think all of us should be beyond that feeling where we have to prove ourselves. In that moment where I feel like I have to prove myself, again, I think I said this in the beginning, but I feel like I got to prove myself for something. I just don't really need to be there. You know what I'm saying? It's like really no point in me trying to like, show myself, because it's like the track record is there, even if it's not on my CV or something like
And
that.
we don't have to tap dance for anybody.
It's already there. You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing. Like for me, it's just like, I always was looking to put the next person on, to try to like put somebody into that seat, because I know once I was in this place or whatever, I wanted everybody to know that I was there. I want everybody to know how it looks or whatever. I want everybody to come in and have one of those free corporate meals, all of that. You know what I'm saying? Come into this place with me or whatever. You know what I'm saying? This is like my home and this is also yours or whatever. So I can swipe you in, whatever. So like, that's kind of like how I play it or whatever, like being in these positions or whatever. I want to bring everybody that I'm close to or whatever relationship. I've had plenty of relationships of people that I've like met at working at the company or whatever. And like a few of them are probably on this talk and whatnot. And I definitely like just try to return that favor every time by bringing them back into that place or whatever, especially like being that person that can advocate for them. So,
Yeah, being Black and being a person of color, I think bringing people who look like us or are, Black or person of color, we feel it's our job, or that maybe not our job, but our duty to our community to usher more people in. But I'm just going to look at Lisa's question here, is that, if we are doing this work on our own, but also like, how do we bridge the gap to make sure that other people, even in our own friend groups or community groups, that we're a part of, how do we bridge the gap to make sure that the other folks, not just us, like the work that we're doing to bring in people, it's not just our job. How are we making it possible to, for other people to cross the bridge and do the same?
I think there should be like just like when you work at customer service and, you walk in and one day you forget to ask them if they would like to, add an item on, like, hey, would you like a side of fries with that or something? Like, I think there needs to be that in the photography community. Go above and beyond. Steve mentioned, I don't know what it would look like, but, providing, what is it called? Like a seat, or, being a part of the APA membership, for Black photographers. You didn't know what that would look like, if it'd be free or whatever it may be. But just going above and beyond, because sometimes telling us that you want us included and then telling us that we, in order for you to include us, we have to do this, that's not enough. You have to go above and beyond to make sure and ensure that we are a part of, whatever seat or whatever circle or whatever group. I was incredibly surprised at the group on Facebook when this, was brought up, because I hadn't seen anything Black brought up at all, anything people of color brought up at all. And it made me happy, I will say that. And the fact that it was mentioned by someone who doesn't look like me made it even better. So I feel like that's, a way to bridge that gap. And we do want that. And that's one way to do it, is to go above and beyond and just do it.
I wanted to say, from the perspective of also being intersectional, and I've found community more in our women's photographer group, which kind of branched off of SF image makers, because there was a lot of mansplaining going on, and there's still mansplaining that goes on, and I feel really disrespected sometimes. So I don't even ask questions in there anymore. And so I've felt a sense of community with just women. There's white women in there, there's Latina women, like just from a gender perspective, I think that the men need to like back down sometimes, and other men need to check them. Like I don't see men checking other men, and that's a problem. So, and even like I was telling I was talking to Nader too about, I went to like an APA event, or not an APA event, but there was like a holiday party, and it was just groups of men clustered together, and I'm like, this does not feel welcome. You know, like Nicole was saying, like walking into a room and it's like all these men who are just like being macho with each other or whatever. Like, I don't know, it needs to feel welcome, like not just across race, but also across gender. And so like keep that in mind when you want to, you know, bridge these gaps and want to build inclusivity. Like it can't just be a bunch of other men. Like it really needs to be inclusive of gender, not just like the gender binary either, but you know, like look at trans artists, you know, look at people who are non-binary, and just realize like they have a really unique perspective to offer as well.
100%. Yeah. I have a small group of women who we meet monthly and talk about our goals and hold each other accountable for what we want to accomplish in that month. Talk about what happened in the last month. How do we feel about how things went? And a larger group, which is a group of female photographers, which I joined when I quit my full-time job. And all of those women really helped me figure out what the hell I was doing. And yeah, there were definitely times, and most of the time, I was the only Black person in the room. But I at least have spaces and community with other women that make me feel supported. Yeah.
And I think, like me, I'm a part of many like different sector groups in Oakland, and I'm a part of a collective called NERD, and it's a Black-based collective, but you know, it's men, it's non-binary folk on there, it's folks for the LGBTQ community. Like we're all on there, and I learned so much. You know, coming to the Bay Area, I can honestly say like I've learned within the 4.5-year time span of being there more about gender and everything else than where I lived in St. Louis. That's where I'm born and raised. And so like coming to the Bay was like a blessing in disguise, because it left me feeling like, okay, I need to, if I leave or whatever, I need to take all of this I gained and take it elsewhere, you know? So I always like give shots to the Bay, no matter what city I'm in, because without the Bay, without the folks that I met in the Bay or whatnot, I don't think I would be where I am right now as an artist, you know, because a lot of that stuff I just didn't take for granted. I shut up when anybody else was talking, you know what I'm saying? A woman in the room was talking or whatever. I just sat down and listened or whatever. And then that's pretty much how I came up with a bunch of my ideas. And then I like always segue that back to it. I had 2 shows. I had a show, it was titled Black Women Over Breathing. And I wasn't even in the show. I literally curated the show for Black women artists that was like represented in the Bay and outside of the Bay. One artist, a good friend of mine from St. Louis. And that was just like on purpose, because I saw that a problem where it's just like non-binary slash like, you know, black women, they didn't have a space to show in Oakland when we did have Black galleries, you know what I'm saying? We did have them, but it's just like there was no representation of like an all show representative one, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, that's easy to do. And it's like, I didn't even like necessarily like really give myself like, oh, I'm the cure this or whatever. It's just like, I just really want you to show your work, show how important it is, because this work is what you're creating is really, 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 really important. And then from there, again, I've met so many different people, you know what I'm saying? Women, folks from the LGBT community, like Keza is one of my favorite artists in the Bay. Yatunde, all these different folks, Soleil, like all these different folks that like I met or whatever, like literally like they're schooling me, you know what I'm saying, teaching me different terms and all this type of stuff. That's why I think like that like the connection could be like just basically bringing on different folk or whatever outside of your own or whatnot, and like learning from them. You know what I'm saying? And just like sitting down. It's okay to like be quiet, because like when Ashleigh and Nicole go to these like meetings or whatever, and they walk into this space and they see all these guys, it's like, of course I'm gonna look around and see if anybody else is in the room. I don't want to talk to them because you already know what they're talking about. You're literally probably not talking about anything that's gonna help me out. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, imagine them walking into a group. It's like, you know, can you help me? How could you help me? It's almost like you probably got to start putting them on the spot when we do see that. You know what I'm saying? Break up this huddle. How could you help me? You know, and just see what they're going to say. Put them on the spot. And I'm not telling you to do that if you don't feel comfortable or whatever, but I feel like now, today, or whatever, we see that, I feel like this definitely the put on the spot type culture to step into or whatever. So that's what I say.
Do you think that is the next like wave of allyship? Like, do you think that is how we are actually going to change something and be able to like come together and, you know, like, you know, Black and non-Black folks? Do you think that is like, you know, maybe like how we like literally crossing barriers, you know, like if you're confronting someone with a question and almost surprise, you know, and almost surprise like that, you know, you're like putting yourself literally like right in front of them to give you an answer.
I think, yeah, that's definitely it. And like to David just said, this is a journey. He said, this journey is complicated and full of stumbles. And so, yeah, it's complicated, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be complicated, because if you're a photographer and you know, you're say for instance, like you're looking out for art shows or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But you know what type of art show you're looking for, what type of crowd. Put yourself in an uncomfortable situation at least once, because we're always in an uncomfortable situation. We've shared so many stories today about being uncomfortable. So now, to all the allies and to anybody else out there, it's your turn to now flip the script. Because the thing is, when you step into a space with us, we're not going to make you feel uncomfortable, especially the group of people that I roll with. You know what I'm saying? We're going to welcome you in. You know what I'm saying? We're going to hand you a drink if there's drinks available, whatever, and we're going to talk to you. We're not going to make you feel like anything less than. That's the crazy thing about it. You know what I'm saying? That's like when you flip the script. That's y'all ass that do that. You know what I'm saying? Y'all get weird, uptight, you know what I'm saying, don't really know what to do. You know, like, it doesn't make any sense at all. You know what I'm saying? We're present, we're here, you know, I have the same camera as you do. You don't even talk to me about photography. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. You know, of course, yes, I'm a photographer. What else? Let's talk about something else. You know what I'm saying? Let's see if you can carry a conversation, a different conversation other than photography. That's kind of like my test when it comes down to people. You know what I'm saying? Anything outside of like the regular norms. Like, let's like talk about something else outside of it. So I challenge everybody, when everything starts to open up, you know, carefully or whatnot, wear your mask, wash your hands, all that, you know, go into these places that you probably never ever been. Betty Ono Gallery, downtown Oakland on Broadway. Everybody who lived in the Bay drove past this shit 1,000 times. Step foot inside those doors. Do that. You know what I'm saying? Jenkins and Jones Gallery in downtown San Francisco. Go to this gallery space. You know what I'm saying? It's beautiful. That's a Black woman gallery space or whatnot. You know, go into that. You know what I'm saying? Like, go to these spaces or whatever. And it's okay. Like, they're going to welcome you in or whatnot. They're not going to say anything out of the norm to you. Just go inside and introduce yourself.
I also wanted to shout out the African American Arts and Cultural Center, which is in San Francisco. A lot of people don't know about it. It's in the Fillmore. They just did a project where they painted Black Lives Matter on the road that leads up to City Hall, which is dope. It's run by two sisters, Black women, super dope. So that's also a space that you should check out, and they have a lot of programming.
In the MOAD, it's like literally right before the MoMA. Go to the MOAD, then go to the MoMA. It's right there.
Yes, and actually Bryant Terry is doing a lot of programming there. It's super interesting. And, you know, the other way is to learn. I mean, if you really want a full experience, you know, so that's, you can learn through the food, you can learn through the art and talking to people who work. And are in these spaces. That's definitely a way to create allyship. And, you know, just, I mean, if you are uncomfortable, like, it's really a great way to, you know, get over the fear of being uncomfortable, is to talk to people, and to, you know, do some research and educate yourself on things that maybe you have questions about. We are 5 minutes before we have to kind of wrap things up here. So I do want everyone to know where to find all of you, to support your work, and to, you know, see what you guys are up to and follow along. So if you can go around the room and just let us know where to find you guys, that'd be great.
Starting with Nicole.
I'm at NicoleMorrisonPhotography.com, Nicole Morrison Photo on Instagram. I don't remember the rest of the question.
Just where to find you, so that people can follow along.
Follow along. I'll be back to posting regularly at some point, but right now it's just stories because I'm just trying to share information and use this rare attention from people who, you know, more people than ever right now care about Black lives. So I'm just trying to share as much information as possible for all the different places where people are at.
For me, just AdrianWalker.com. I'm also represented by Part 2 Gallery in Oakland, so you can find me at Part 2 Gallery. And also, like I said, Hella Creative, Hella Juneteenth. We have some amazing events rolling out this week. We have one tomorrow, so just check out my Instagram page and then click on the links, register for these events. We have an all-day event going on this Saturday in representation of Juneteenth. Even though Juneteenth is Friday, we're doing it on the 20th. So feel free to check that out as well. There's a lot of dope programming going on, and I'm sure everybody can learn something from that, what we have going on.
And you can find me at shotbychose.com, and on all social media is Chose One Pride. It's in the chat, and it's also next to my name. And then I'm also working on, I'm building a media company. I just got my studio space, and the name of the media company is All Black Creative. And the goal is to be able to provide jobs, you know, hire people, kind of like an agency, and put those people in position to take jobs like Nike or, you know, Gucci, or headshots at Facebook or whatever that may be, and whatever that looks like. So, you know, just follow me along that way to help with that, because we definitely need allies in that market, because it's so far dominated, you know, by the older white men. So, yeah.
My website's on here. It's stayready.com. Everything is Stay Ready. Instagram / Stay Ready, Twitter, Pinterest. So you can find me there. I mostly use Instagram, and I also have a photo page that I just started recently. It's stayready.photography on Instagram.
And I am at K Robinson on Instagram. I just had someone hack my old stuff, so I'm back with a different handle, and yeah, I'm gonna be following all of these wonderful photographers out there. I wanted to say thank you for just having us, and just speaking for myself. You know, this is my first kind of panel like this, and I hope this is, you know, the kind of the beginning of many more discussions like this to come, because it was beautiful. And you know, I'm already getting messages about it, so this is just a great thing, and I want to really send my thank yous out to that. K. Robinson Photos. Sorry.
I want to thank Steve again too for from what it looks like on my end, bringing up the conversation, and also reaching out, because it's a big deal and it's very important. So yeah.
Awesome. And I'll I'll just tell you guys where to find me. I'm on Instagram at jjoules, JJOULES. And then I also run The Astute Agency on Instagram is at The Astute Agency, and it's also theastuteagency.com. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you all so much. I can't thank you enough. I mean, I really don't even know what to say. I honestly feel really empowered after this, and I think it takes this and keep putting ourselves, like you said, in uncomfortable positions. Every time I'm putting together a call like this, I keep reminding myself of that, and believe it or not, it actually makes me feel better to tell myself that. Because I literally am like helping myself and build my own community, and so with that said, please stay in touch with us. We want to stay in touch with you. We really value your voices, and set we have every month. Please join the set events. There's lots of good discussions about business and things for photographers. So yeah, thank you so much. And on behalf of the APSF board, thanks again. Really do appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I think somebody want to get a screenshot of us.
Go for it.
I'll do that right now.
All right.
There we go.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
See you soon. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.